Hello, my name is Nathaniel Holland, and in this presentation, I will be reviewing Dare to Lead by Brene Brown and analyzing its relevance to leadership theory learned in Management 5870 and my own personal experiences. Brown is known for her research and insight into vulnerability, courage, and shame, and in Dare to Lead, she applies those concepts directly to organizational leadership rather than defining leadership through solely legitimate power perspective. Brown reframes leadership as a set of behaviors grounded in courage, trust, and emotional transparency. In this presentation, I will summarize the book's core ideas, connect them to leadership theories from this course, and reflect on how they apply to my own leadership experiences at Textron Systems with my point of use project. In Dare to Lead, Brown challenges the traditional misconception that leaders must be in control at all times. Brown defines vulnerability as uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. She argues that vulnerability is not weakness, but rather the emotional experience necessary for courage. Leaders and workers often avoid difficult conversations to preserve harmony and comfort of the work environment. Avoiding discomfort, however, slowly erodes trust, and leaders who prioritize the comfort damage their credibility. Clear as Kind promotes direct, transparent communication as an act of respect to one another. Brown developed the Braving Inventory as a way to make trust operational. Rather than viewing trust as an abstract concept, she specifically identifies key behaviors that affect trust both positively and negatively. Reliability and accountability are especially important in organizations. When leaders or workers avoid responsibilities and fail to follow through with their actions, trust erodes quickly. The key in this model is that trust is cumulative and is built through a variety of channels. Being consistent in who you are and consistently following through builds trust the quickest. Brown gives us a clear breakdown of 4 relevant skill sets for courageous leadership. Rumbling with vulnerability focuses on engaging in crucial conversations instead of avoiding them. Living into our values requires consistency between words and actions. The Braving model highlights how to build relational trust, and Learning to Rise emphasizes the resilience and learning from setbacks and failures. Brown is able to redefine courage as a skill rather than a personality trait, allowing leaders to learn courage through focus and practice of the skills in order to build trust. Brown's perspective is not treated as traditional leadership theory. It does reinforce some concepts discussed in Management 5870. Transformational leadership relies on inspiring followers through a shared vision and purpose. Brown elaborates on this concept by explaining that there must be psychological safety, and if followers don't trust the leader, they won't trust and commit to the shared vision. Authentic leadership derives from transparency and self-awareness. Brown advances this by adding the necessary relationship between transparency and vulnerability. A leader can become more authentic by admitting and sharing uncertainties and limitations that they are facing. Kouzes and Posner explain the concept of enabling others to act requires collaboration, trust, and empowerment. The Braving framework from Brown adds behavioral details towards building trust, which is a necessary aspect of enabling others and being a better leader. Brown's leadership analysis touches several other concepts discussed in this course and in industry. Psychological safety provides safety to individuals taking risks, and Brown's vulnerability emphasis increases this safety. When leaders model this openness, others are more likely to speak up as well, increasing trust laterally throughout the company. Leader-member exchange theory builds off the psychological safety and is dependent upon a high-quality, trust-filled relationship between leaders and followers. In my experience at Textron Systems, resistance to change was not about the technical solution, but low existing relational trust. Improving this trust improves the outcome's chance of success. Credibility is a strong indicator in the success of change management. Brown reinforces how to build this credibility through reliability and accountability. Being emotionally intelligent enough to recognize initiative fatigue and skepticism of change from followers requires empathy and vulnerability. Brown continues to show the actionable behaviors that lead to these leadership ideas. At Textron Systems, the executive leadership team identified significant time waste caused by employees having to walk across the shop floor to retrieve tools and parts. I championed an effort referred to as the Point of Use Project, which was designed to stage necessary tooling and parts near each workstation, which rotated weekly through the 14-week build cycle. Although I had executive sponsorship for the project, I did not have legitimate authority over the workforce due to the organizational structure of the company. Additionally, multiple previous leaders had change initiatives that had failed, which created resistance and skepticism towards future change attempts. The strongest objection to my initiative was skepticism. Employees questioned why this one would succeed when others had failed, and if it was worth their effort to participate only to be disappointed again. I am a logical person, so I relied on time study data allowing for the facts to persuade the stakeholders. But the resistance I met was not logical, but rather emotional and relational. The turning point in the change management process came through direct conversations with the team leads themselves. We were able to discuss the long-term competitiveness and workforce implications if we were not able to produce more efficiently as a production line. My team was vulnerable and admitted that we were not the subject matter experts on what tools were needed, and we needed the lead's help and expertise. By admitting limitations and inviting collaboration, we shifted from directive change to shared ownership. This ties back to Brown's concept of rumbling with vulnerability. After the project was fully implemented and additional time studies were performed, it was discovered that there was a 51% increase in productivity time for the average employee. Workers were able to spend more time building rather than walking and waiting in lines for tools and parts. In addition to the operational improvements, this initiative was the first major successful change initiative between organizational groups, which was a major milestone for the company. The measurable results reinforced that relational leadership behaviors drive performance outcomes. Reflecting on this experience, I would have initiated the conversations with the leads earlier and been transparent about the reasoning behind the initiative and the consequences if it failed. Additionally, some lessons learned are influence without legitimate power relies heavily on trust, so that should have been an earlier focus. Vulnerability alone is not sufficient. Members also need to see competence and follow through from their leaders. A lack of results can undermine credibility, which happened with all of the previous failed initiatives by leadership. Two questions I look forward to discussing with y'all are, when does vulnerability become risky? And how can leaders create psychological safety while still maintaining high accountability and performance standards?